Jim Rutherford has unzipped it, although this time he used a keyboard instead of his mouth. So, did he really unzip it at all? Well, here's a promise. You're listening to two guys who will never zip it. It's Beggsy and it's Bowen, and you're listening to Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and I'm back, baby. Thanks for hitting the play button on today's episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, Canucks writer and part-time credentialed media member for Daily High Vancouver. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon today to get started. And before we dive into the show, we want to thank you for listening to Locked On Canucks, your team every day. Subscribe or follow for free or on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. On today's show, we're going to get into that letter that Jim Rutherford penciled to season ticket holders. We're also going to get into my notes presented by that guy, Kyle Bowen.
Hey.
But first, I need to introduce him and ask him how he's doing. Kyle, what's going on, my man?
Great start, great energy. You're sounding great, Beggsy. I'm good. After yesterday's solo performance, it was tough, not going to lie. Haven't done that in a long time. It was nice to shake off the cobwebs, but man, oh man, again, it was tough without you. I appreciate the job you do. I know the people do too. Speaking of the people, we'll get to the comments at the end of the show because we save the best for last. A couple more subscribers, the people coming in. We appreciate you. You're putting bacon on Trevor's plate, and you're possibly bailing this guy out of something really significant down the road. We'll get more into that later. We got to talk about the Canucks, right? It's not a you and I show. It's a Canucks show. That letter, man, that letter, I saw it. I don't want to be too nitpicky, but I got to say it again. I just didn't appreciate the design on it as well. I feel as if the letter was kind of like Jim Rutherford actually designed the letter as well. It kind of looked like that as well. Again, let's not go into the design too much. Talk about the letter, talk about the words. Let's get into it because this is Canucks hockey, baby, and this is fascinating.
Canucks hockey. Yeah, there's nothing more fascinating than a 71-year-old white dude writing a letter to a bunch of rich people who can afford season tickets. But
Hey.
That's beside the point. Jim Rutherford, again, so this letter actually usually comes from Francesco Aquilini. So this was kind of an interesting take on it to have Jim Rutherford write the letter to season ticket holders. Does it mean a bit more? I was going to say it probably meant a bit more. At least Jim Rutherford has more insight to what's going on than Aquilini, who, just thinks it's the Canucks are going to win the cup every single season, But, it's, again, these letters have a lot of empty calorie stuff in them, apparently on the graphic design side and the writing side.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the most interesting things to come out with it was this paragraph right here, where he I'll just read it out loud.
Yeah,
we are currently the 5th youngest team in the league, and we believe in our core of elite players. Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, JT Miller, and Thatcher Demko are exceptional players who continue to elevate their game. We are equally excited about the emerging new players on our roster, which includes Andrei Kuzmenko, Ilya Mikheyev, Ethan Bear, and the recently acquired Filip Hronek. This is a terrific base to build upon. So, again, he kind of mentioned those 4 core players that made it up into the advertising that you talked about yesterday. He mentioned Andrei Kuzmenko, the 5th player to make it up there. And then he also, mentioned 3 other guys, Mikheyev, Ethan Bear, and Filip Hronek. So what do you think? I think this is Jim Rutherford's coming out and saying it. These are his favorite players on the Canucks right now. Do you agree with him on that?
Well, I guess so. I mean, the top 4 for sure. And, he mentioned the newer players. He said what he had to say. I know some people really dove deep into the whole notion that Boeser wasn't mentioned once, in the letter itself. But it is what it is. It's Brock Boeser. He's been here for a while. I don't believe he's a big part of the core anymore. He has to prove it if he wants to get back in there, which I don't even know if it's that big of a deal, to be honest. I think it's more fascinating how you mentioned that he was, not a part of like the advertising campaign. I am looking into those things for real. Those things, they don't mean too much, but they kind of do tell you a bit of detail on how they feel about what could happen this offseason and who could be being swapped out, because I said it yesterday, you don't want to waste real estate / stickers / in this case text on somebody who's not even going to be here next season, right? That letter, it's an intimate thing. It's full of promises, right? You got to keep the truth in there. And yeah, it's something that we talked about yesterday. The solo episode is Brock Boeser still going to be around. They also didn't mention Connor Garland as well, which some people were not like up in arms about, but they mentioned it as well. It's like, dude, come on, this team's a losing team. You can't mention everyone. It's obvious. It's not news. It's obvious, right? Right now,
Yeah.
I will say, he did say JT Miller continues to get better. He mentioned that, right? He connected those two things. Do you, because having an elite four, like group of four players like that, it means a lot. Like that's significant. There's a lot of points there. There's a lot of, again, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, both probably in Elias's cases, top 5, top 10 forward. Miller top 30, top 40. Do you think Miller has like 2 or 3 of these years left in him?
I mean, I think so, and I sure hope so. There was one part of Dom Luszczyszyn's 16 stats column on The Athletic, and he was kind of mentioning Miller, with Boudreau and with Tocchet. And I think with Boudreau, Miller's on pace for 70 points, but the defensive metrics were terrible. Like he's on the ice for 40% of goals, 42% of expected goals. Under Tocchet, this guy's, I think, 51% expected goals. So, above average, not bad considering where he was early in the season. But he is on pace for over 100 points over a full 82 games based on his pace under Tocchet. So, yeah, I do think JT Miller's got the drive, the competitive fire. He's certainly looks like one of the best players on the ice right now. So, yeah, I think it's conceivable that he could do this for another 2 to 3 seasons. And the Canucks better hope he does, because that's their cup window. Probably won't even open up for 2, maybe 3 seasons. Again, you hope with the star power and those other 3 core players you mentioned, Pettersson, Hughes, and Demko, if all those 3 guys are 3 of the best of their positions in the NHL, Canucks could get there sooner rather than later. But as we've seen across the NHL, it takes more than just 3 guys to win a Stanley Cup.
No, 100%. And again, that's a good elite group of players. Again, if Miller can pull through, because I know for sure we're going to see it in Elias or Elias and Quinn Hughes. We're going to get that right, by the way. Going into next season, we're going to learn how to pronounce the guy's name, okay? Quinn Hughes, Pettersson, Demko. I think we're pretty confident that they're going to be on their game next season for sure. And in Demko's case, like, come on, you got to be there in October, November if this team has a chance to do anything different. Miller, there's a bit of a question mark only because, we get kind of caught up in the whole age thing. It's funny how, you and I are turning 30. So I think Miller and Kyle Bound and Trevor Beggs born in the same year, 1993, I think. Is that the truth? There you go. So you and I can't be saying, he's getting up there in age and he's out of shape and, like his peak. Come on, bro. Come on. We can't doubt this guy. Come on. We try to do what this guy's trying to do. For real. Go JT Miller, for real. Leave JT alone. Ever since we started doing that, look what happened. This guy's picking it up.
True enough, man. You should take credit for that. You should take credit for that.
I did have a point. Oh, a point I want to make, or it's more of a question. Okay. So we just listened to West Coast Express, Scott Rinsful. Go check it out. A lot of love there. A lot of feeling when listening to that podcast. We're starting to see empty seats at Rogers Arena now. You go into next season, you talk about those 4. Kuzmenko, throw them in there. The Canucks have a recipe to be a really exciting team. Don't they? Again,
100%.
It all has to start in October, November, but the feeling around this team can switch quick. Again, I'll say it for the 3rd time, if October and November are good months for this team. Yeah, the Canucks have a really exciting team, right?
Yeah, well, they're one of the top teams in goal scoring this season. I believe they've been hovering around top 10 all year long. They should still be there. It mainly comes on playing defense and goaltending. And another interesting stat from, I keep showing a Dom Luszczyszyn from The Athletic, but another interesting stat from his column, basically the Canucks were expected to get above average goaltending with Demko this season. And instead they've given up, 40 to 45 goals more than they were expected to based on, Demko's projection. If the Canucks give up 40 to 45 fewer goals, they're going to be in the playoffs this season.
Whoa.
So, we can, again, it goes defense and goaltending both play into it. But just thinking about that, like if Demko played up to his potential, what he was expected to be based on some of the analytical models out there, the Canucks would be a playoff team this season.
Yeah. And again, October and November really matter. Next season really, really, really matters. Let's do it, man. For real, the sun's shining. 12 months from now, I just want that opportunity to text you, right? around this time and ask you, yo, should we just grab a couple beers and watch the game? I guess we'd have to go to your crib because, the family's getting bigger, but I want that feeling to happen, for real.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe we can crush a few beers and watch some NBA as well.
Hey,
Because
sure.
Kyle, you called me out when you did the ad read yesterday. I keep saying that the midway point of the NBA season is here, and you're right. It's not the midway point. Like I shouldn't be reading these ads verbatim. It is the
Yeah.
playoff push. The playoff push in the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to points scored and threes drained. Now, Kyle, you didn't want to talk about my Trailblazers yesterday, and fair enough. They're sitting outside that playoff picture. I would love to see a little Golden State versus Sacramento
Mm-hmm.
in some point in the playoffs, a little California matchup. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'd be putting down some money on both those teams. And if I do that with FanDuel, it lets me combine those bets for a chance at a bigger payout with same game parlays. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus
1,000.
bets when you go to fanduel.com/locked on. That's fanduel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Yeah, if you choose to bet on sports, do so responsibly. And if you choose to do so again, I'm gonna send you peace and love and well wishes. Go win some money. Make your life a little more stress free. You're listening and watching Locked On Canucks. Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs. Again, man, it's nice to see you again. I feel more comfortable. Feel at ease here. A little nervous yesterday. It is what it is. But you brought the heat, and you always bring the heat. And even when you're not there, you're bringing the notes, and I appreciate that, man. I really do.
Oh, 100%, man. And I took some time to spend with the family yesterday. I had nieces and nephews in town from beautiful Edmonton. Shout out Edmonton. I don't know if I've ever said that before, but I love my family, so I'll give them a shout out this one time. I'm trying to convert them over the Canucks, even though cheering for the Oilers might be a better thing to do right now. But we'll just
Yeah,
just ignore that because
you're not converting
just don't
anyone
want
to
to,
Canuck
let's
fans right
not
now.
let's not do that.
There's nothing you can do. Yeah. Even if you
Yeah.
like, oh, we got Patterson, there's about 1,400 point players. It's just hard, you got to like really connect wins into this equation. Anywho,
Mhm.
continue.
Well, yeah, I think in segment 2 here, I had Trevor's notes, and they were going to be presented by Kyle. Do you still want
Of
to present my notes,
course,
buddy?
I do want to present the notes, and let's run the clip again. This is Trevor's notes on Locked On Canucks, brought to you or presented to you by Kyle. Thank you, Trevor, for these notes. Okay, let's talk about Akito Hirose. Am I saying that name
I think it's
right?
Hirose.
Hirose.
Akito
Okay, so there
Hirose.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. You got it. Come on, Trevor. Up it with the notes. Put the pronunciation symbols. Okay, come on, man. But what a interesting deal he signs. I think he was only eligible to sign that deal, that 1-year deal. I think he's going to get some games with the Canucks, a real tryout. Maybe they do have something on the back end too, like, yo, don't worry. At the end of the season, we'll give you that 2-way deal. You'll play with the Aperture Canucks. You'll be a pro. What have you heard from the dude? And yeah, well, this is it. When I first heard this, and again, Trevor's the guy here, right? The hockey guy. I was like, yo, are the Canucks really trying to tank now? Like, are they really buying into the tank? They're just gonna bring in players from college, like 1-year deals. Yeah, we'll give you an NHL check. Just like run that 1 year in the last 10 games. Who is this guy?
Yeah, it's funny. So a coworker at the office this morning, he knows that I'm pretty dialed into this team, and I'm doing the podcast here on Locked On Canucks. So he asked me about Akito Hirose, and I'm like, I need to dive into some tape on this guy. I have not really watched him, so I watched a bit of tape on him before recording today, and he's a slippery dude. Like
Slippery.
the way he kind of spins at the blue line and spins along the boards does remind me a bit of Quinn Hughes, and I know Quinn Hughes is the standard for everyone in terms of just dancing around and using that edge work, but Akito Hirose has that. He's a great playmaker. He's got great edge work from what I've seen. I think one of the main concerns with him is that, he's 6 foot, 170 pounds, and he's 23 years old. Like, can he handle the physical grind of being a full-time NHL or even AHL defenseman? But aside from that, he's posted points at nearly a point per game rate over the past couple seasons in the NCAA. So just excited to see, what he looks like at the NHL level. It is worth noting, and you can poo-poo on me for being a Debbie Downer, but we've seen the likes of guys like Josh Tevez and Brogan Rafferty come in
Oh,
in
yeah, there
similar
you go.
situations over the past couple of years. So
There you go.
everyone was pretty excited about Brogan Rafferty for a time there, and then that just didn't work out at all. So excited to see him, but kind of like what we said with Aiden McDonough a couple weeks ago on Lockdown Canucks, pump the brakes and temper those expectations.
Trevor Beggs, he just always out here calling people out, taking shots, ending careers before they even start. That should be Trevor Beggs' tagline. Unbelievable, man. Hey, congratulations on signing the deal. That's kind of cool, man. For real. Again, obscure type of contract, and it's kind of like the situation where your life switches in an instant. And I'm proud of him, for real. It's cool. Now I can't really dive too much into the ability because again, didn't really watch much of him, and I'm just looking at Trevor's notes right now. Speaking of which, let's talk about Pride Night and the Canucks, man. A drag show right before the game starts. Am I hearing that right? They're going all in. They're going all in here.
Yeah, drag show in the plaza. I think there's a performance by Queer as Funk, and team announcer going to wear the jerseys and warm up. And Quinn Hughes just said, we've done it every year since I've been here, and looking forward to doing it again. So, at this juncture, it seems like they're doing all the right things, which is kind of a breath of fresh air over based on what's transpired over the past couple months here. So, hope it all goes smoothly, and almost wish I was in the building for it, man. But my part-time gig covering the Canucks in the building is done for the season. So
Yeah.
it's all on Rob Williams' Daily Hive. Shout out Rob, and so I'll be watching this one on TV. But it should be a fun night, and hope it all works out without controversy.
Oh, dude, it's only gonna be love. It's only gonna be love, yo. I've been invited to a couple drag shows in this thing called my life. I've been busy both times. I think I've declined once too. Uh, I've I've uh I've always been a little interested in the theater of it, and I feel as if the people who really really love that type of entertainment always talk so highly about it because of its history. Yeah, this has been around. This has been around forever, and this is like original theater. I don't know. There's a lot of people that are going to be introduced to it, or maybe a lot of people that have been to it that are going to see it at the plaza again. And again, it's going to be a lot of love in there. You got to lead with love. It's not even that deep. It's got to lead with love. Embrace that stuff. Be grateful for the human beings around us, the nice ones around us. Let's support them. Let's just have a good time together. Beggsy, is it deep? It's not. It's not effing deep for real.
No,
For real.
no, just lead with love, buddy. I like that.
Lead with
I
love.
like that
Lead with
tagline.
love.
And
Why not? Trevor's notes, not that deep today. Only a couple points, right? We got to get through this. Tyler Myers, his resurgence. Don't do this, man.
woohoo!
This guy's, all these rookies coming in, signing college deals, having their dreams come true. Yeah, you're not gonna. Good luck, buddy. Good luck. Take a lot of photos. Make sure your parents get tickets, buddy, because this ain't gonna happen again. That's Beggsy, most of the time. And now he's like, yeah, Tyler Myers, just come back next year, man. You know what? You got 1 year left on the deal after this season. We can extend you this summer. Come on, man. Let's 3-year deal. Why not, man?
Oh, right. The Tyler Myers is eligible for an extension this summer. Yeah, great point, Kyle. Great point. Yeah, it's that's something the Canucks should jump all over. Nah. I mean, yeah, I'm trolling a bit with this one, but he's had a couple of moments this month where he's really shown off more playmaking skills than I thought he had. Like he was looking like a younger Tyler Myers for sure. But on the 5-4 goal that Andrei Kuzmenko scored against St. Louis on Tuesday, Tyler Myers and Elias Pettersson were part of a great give and go. And then Tyler Myers set up Connor Garland against the San Jose Sharks about a week and a half ago for a beautiful backdoor tap in. So just a couple plays from Tyler Myers this month where I've been like, yo, is this guy just feeling the heat now that Philip Hronek's in town?
Man. That wasn't the Sharks.
Okay, think about it. Jim,
man. That was the Barracudas, man. Let's be real, man.
Jim Rutherford just name dropped 2 right shot defensemen in his letter, Ethan Bear and Philip Hronek. And Tyler Myers, who's been a top 4 defenseman pretty much since he came into the NHL, like 27 years ago, it feels like. Now he's going like, oh shoot, am I like, do I even have a roster spot next season? I mean, based on the contract, he's probably going to play for the Canucks. He's probably going to play for the Canucks in the third pairing role, which is exactly where he should be if he's going to be on this team at all. But I got the sense over these last couple of weeks now that Hronek's arrived that Myers has stepped up his game just a little bit, and he's feeling that heat. He's feeling that heat, Kyle.
Feeling the heat and enjoying AHL competition and doing the most to pick up those points. The resurgence, right? My God, man. Okay, that was Trevor's notes brought to you by Kyle. You're listening to Locked On Canucks. Trevor Beggs. Who are we talking about next year? You're back on Locked On Canucks. Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button and follow us wherever you stream your podcast. My favorite part of the show. I don't know if it's Beggsy's favorite part of the show. Again, family first, not fan first. I do this for you. We got to go to Comic Corner. And what do we got here? We got Cash McGregor. Yeah, an OG fan. I hope he's back next year. He's talking about Brock Boeser, and then he was alluding to the fact that, he brought back excitement all those years ago. What, 9 years ago? Brock Boeser was doing it. Do you again, I think it's kind of like a dumb question to ask because he does have a hard contract to move. There's a really good chance that he's going to be around. Where does he have to line up at the start of next season? Like who's he playing with?
He's got to be a top 6 winger, and I've said it before. I think he should be playing with Elias Pettersson, but he's probably going to be playing with JT Miller. That's yeah.
And do you see that working?
I think it would work better if it was Pettersson, Kuzmenko, and Boeser on that first line. I think there's too much skill in that line to handle, especially if you have Boeser at his best, and it just gives Boeser another two puck distributors on that line. I know Boeser's turned into a bit more of a playmaker himself, but between all three of those guys, they're great shooters, they're great playmakers. I think Boeser could rediscover a bit more of a scoring touch. You'd get more out of him playing with Kuzmenko and Pettersson. With Miller, I'd love to see more of like those kind of tenacious forwards with skill on that line. Like Podkolzin and Miller would be great if Podkolzin could hit his potential. I actually like Garland there too. I like Bolivier there. But yeah, I think Boeser, the best place to put him is alongside Elias Pettersson. Said that a couple weeks ago on Locked On Canucks. Feel free to go check out that episode. A couple weeks later, I have not backed down on that take.
I think you keep doubling down on it because you feel as if that's where he's most useful. And if he's playing with Miller, there's not the best chance that he pulls through. And then if he's on your third line, it's like, dude, that's
and he spent way too much season on the third line.
That's not really the case. Okay, what's the next comment here? We got G. Ellis. Brock is slow, soft, and invisible in most games. He's the master of second assist and empty netters. There is a lot of moments in the Canucks season where you don't notice Brock, but he picks up points. I'm gonna say that's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the worst. I know it's maybe like secondary assists. I know he's saying empty netters. I don't know if all that is true. You need guys like that. I think I mentioned way back when, not based on the way they played, but based on their impact, I felt as if Boeser could reach like that Phil Kessel level, like where it's like, yo, this guy just like, he's so smart. He knows where to distribute the puck. He's strong along. He just gets points. He's just one of those players. Again, I don't think the invisibility is the worst thing. I think it's more hurting, again, because of the fact he makes so much money. He's not a $7 million guy. I think it's pretty clear to say that Brock Boeser is not that guy.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If, again, Brock Boeser has looked invisible for a lot of the season, but part of that is because he's not scoring the same amount of goals. And, his playmaking is arguably at an all-time high. Like, I just pulled it up right now. In terms of primary assists at even strength, Boeser's registered the most primary assists at even strength in his career on a per 60 basis. 0.87 assists per 60, primary assists per 60.
Yeah.
So, again, that playmaking part of his game is more evident.
Yeah.
I have not liked his game for most of the season, but I think the best way is if you want to trade Boeser or if you want to get the most out of Boeser, play him with Pettersson. That's the best way to juice his stats. Whether you want to trade him or keep him, put him with the Canucks' two best players and let him flourish.
Or juice his mojo. I know we are pretty much out of time here. Beggsy got to go. He's got this meeting room. It's like $100 an hour. Come on, man. We do a lot for Locked On Canucks. Let's be real. I want to hit you with one more question, though. And if you can answer it in 45 seconds, answer it. If you can't, just, end off the show like you do. The only way Beggsy can. I said it yesterday, and you mentioned Rick Tocchet sticking around, training with the boys, possibly on some sort of off-season regimen, Is that actually going to happen? And don't you think that should happen for a team that has a lot of moving parts and a team that year after year after year isn't really playing a lot of hockey in May and April? Don't you think things got to be a little different when it comes to how this team gets together when the regular season is over? I feel as if the off-season training and the camaraderie has to start earlier. I get this is so football, but I feel like it has to happen here for October and November to actually work out for this team.
Yeah, I agree. And, that's exactly what Rick Tocchet has said, is that he wants to be involved in the off-season training regimens of most players on the team. And he hasn't said exactly what that looks like, but he just says he wants to be involved. So didn't say he'd be pumping weights with them, but definitely wants to check in on all the Canucks. And, based on how they started training camp last year, which is we've heard multiple times was not a good training camp. These guys need to be locked and loaded and in shape and ready to go because, there's expectations next year. And it's one thing to have expectations when you're the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Boston Bruins. It's another to have expectations when you're a bottom 10 team in the Vancouver Canucks. So these guys want to rise the standings. They better be ready to rock and roll. So we got to thank Rick Tocchet for keeping these guys. We got to thank Rick Tocchet.
They got to send that speech over. They got to send that speech over to the boys, man. Play it on Friday, man. Holy, bro. That was intense.
Hey.
I got motivated. Okay, man. Okay, do you think, man?
All I got to say is thank you, Rick Tocchet. Keep the boys in line. And we thank you for listening to this episode of Locked On Canucks, your team every day. Now make your second listen game to game, Locked On NHL. Every moment, every performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across Locked On NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. I got to get out of here. I got to go. It's Trevor Beggs. He's Kyle Bowen. And we thank you for listening to Locked On Canucks.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.